So I want to just continue on and ask, what are some of the misunderstandings people have about children with disabilities? Because I did read in a lot of your guys' written portion, you guys all kind of said the same thing. You guys all said something along the lines that a lot of people focus on what your children can do versus what your children can do. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if you guys wanted to just highlight a few things with that question.
Absolutely.
Struggled there.
Great.
Thank you.
I think that it's really important to understand that it's not a bad thing. It's not, like Eman said, the end of the world. It's not like nobody wants their child to go through anything.
Any hardship.
That's going to be considered a hardship. Yeah. Anything nobody wants that for their child. Nobody wants their child to hit their foot or stub their toe or bump their head.
Totally.
Let alone a lifelong disability. So that being said, you're going to take that moment and you're going to grieve. And you're going to grieve, whatever the typical course of your child's life may have been.
Yeah.
But after you take that moment to grieve, and after you take that moment to have your feelings, then you have to understand that this is what the course of their life is going to be. Mm-hmm. And you have to make the best of that. And whether or not your kid gets a diagnosis, I'm going to talk about autism specifically. There is a stigma about the word autism.
Yes.
And having that label on your child's file, in their school folder, as part of their world. Whether or not somebody gets an autism diagnosis, that child is the same child. Mm-hmm. Whether or not you call them autistic or not. They are the same child, they're going to act the same way, they're going to be the same person. Having an autism diagnosis is just going to allow you to facilitate better funding for therapies, better funding for help, better funding for everything you need to give them the best quality of life possible. And we do have an issue in our community when it comes to stigma. We think that these words are like aib or haram or, how could you say that? One person said to me, and I honestly don't even remember who it was, but one person said to me when I was very loud about my child's diagnosis. I would just go around and say, yep, this is Bayan, yeah, she screams a lot. Yep, she doesn't talk. She's autistic. And somebody said to me, why do you say she's autistic? How is she going to get married? And I said, well, she's 2.5, so I'm not really worried about that.
What we're worried about.
Like, honestly, I'm not worried about that.
Right.
Right now, I'm worried about her quality of life, whether or not she's going to have, the ability to communicate. Bayan is 8 years old now, and she's in mainstream school. She's on an IPP, so she's not doing full curriculum, but she's in that classroom with a community of kids that represents the community outside her school. Mm-hmm. She's not segregated. She's doing it, and she's doing it well, and she's doing it verbally. Khadija is 4, and she's still in pre-K, and she's getting the funding and the help that she needs, that you now need an autism diagnosis for to get that help before 5 years old.
Oh, you didn't before?
No.
Oh,
no.
Any sort of mild, moderate.
Yeah, and now
delay
it's diagnosis.
Get you in there.
Mm-hmm. And so Khadija is not verbal right now. I don't know if she will be verbal in the future, but right now she uses AAC, so augmentative assistive communication, communication, I think it's called.
So they're like pictures.
So no, she uses an actual iPad,
yeah,
and she's like good at it. She can hit these buttons and she can say, want rice, want juice, and the whole point is that when Bayan was 4 and didn't have words, she was screaming, and I had to figure out what she wanted, and I was the only person that was so in tune with her that I could figure it out. Khadija can take this device to any adult.
It's her voice.
And it's her voice. That's how she communicates. Mm-hmm. And communication is not just about being verbal, and yes, she speaks differently, but, she has communication. She can make herself understood.
And that's my thing with Kareem. So kids with Angelman syndrome are nonverbal for life, everybody. So we started with AAC very young. He's at 8, he prefers to play music on Spotify with the iPad than use it to use words.
What kind of music is he into?
Please
tell me some rap.
He's gonna be DJ AK like that.
Oh my god,
We duck the other day on my fun stuff.
Yeah, he just turns the deaf key on, so that's what he uses his iPad for. He finds he's very communicative with his body. He can tell you what he wants, he'll grab it, he'll do whatever he wants. So to him, this AAC is just like last resort. Even at school, they try to use it for him, and he's like, but you know what I want? Like, why do I have to show you again? Mm-hmm. When he looks at you and he's like, okay, they're not figuring it out, he'll go to the iPad or he'll grab the picture from you. Mm-hmm. But it's a voice for him, but he looks at everybody like, why do I have to show you this? I'm telling you what I want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So he uses it, but at the same time, why should I? Because communication isn't just words. He's like, I'm showing you with my body and communicating.
Absolutely.
So that's it's funny because we started that way and we thought this is the root, and he was like, no thanks, we're good.
Well, to add to that, you're right. Language isn't just speech.
Yeah.
My son uses sign language. We use that quite a bit in the household. Of course, now that he has cochlear implants, we really, really push on verbal speech, but we rely heavily on ASL for certain things. Think about it, even if a child is hearing, we automatically use, our hands to point and gestures. So, learning sign language, it's been a challenge. I mean, it's as an adult, it's not easy learning a new language, let alone when it's nonverbal. But that's just the way we communicate, and it's very important in our household. And it shocks me that it's not part of,
Curriculum.
the curriculum.
Yeah.
I know.
I mean, it's so important. But okay, sorry, I lost my train of thought. You said something, and I really. Oh, this is what I want to say. It's sharing your stories. It's just a reminder that a child with a disability requires accommodations, but they do not need a bar set low.
Absolutely.
Just because they may not be able to do something doesn't mean that they can't do anything at all.
Absolutely. That's a great point.
And I've learned that with my son. His ears don't work. He has to have a device. He has, an implant that helps him hear, but he doesn't hear regular sound like you and I would. For Marcelo, his sound is created. It could be robotic. It could sound, it's a machine. So, but that's all he knows.
Mm-hmm.
Just like your children, that's all they know, right? They didn't get into an accident to be the way they are, So as a parent, we want to teach those around that this is their life. We want to give the best quality of life for them. And if that means having these accommodations where you would be using an iPad, he uses a cochlear implant, Lily uses a wheelchair, there's so many accommodations out there, and that's why it's so important to be loud for your child's diagnosis, because in the end, to get the help, you have to advocate for them. You have to really understand that. I'm rambling. I know what I want to get to, but I'm rambling. Sorry, guys.
And
to normalize.
Thank you.
To normalize it in our
this
community.
is just.
This is not. There's nothing wrong.
For
with
normal,
this.
There's nothing
It's-
that's.
It's amazing though, because even family back home, if there's people back home, and it's like when she would first go to preschool. I didn't think preschool was an option for her, because I'm just like, well, she can't walk into the classroom and sit on her, she couldn't even sit on she couldn't crisscross her legs and sit applesauce like the kids do, but and I was living in a Drain Valley, a small town, but I had the early intervention ladies like, well, why can't she go to preschool? And I was like, oh, okay. She's like, yeah, we're on it. So they got her a one-to-one aid, and I remember leaving. I was there the first few days to kind of show them, how I communicate with her, because she can't use a device. She doesn't use her hands. She'll itch her nose and maybe scratch her ear a little bit, rub her face, but she can't grasp anything. She can't physically point anything, so we can't use that as communication. We use a lot of eye gaze, and her sounds, I know her the most. I know what sounds.
Her body language.
Yeah, you just the color of her face, I can tell, oh, she's not feeling good or something's bothering her. Anyways, so, but they're like, wow, she goes to school? It's just I mean, I know we have amazing resources here. Thank God for Canada, the healthcare system. I know sometimes I get frustrated, but at the end of the day,
we're better than a lot of people.
Oh my God, school, the resources, the Glenrose, the Stollery,
And that's the thing about normalizing too. Kareem, same thing. So when we first got his diagnosis, we met a lot of people with Angelman syndrome, through Facebook and whatever. And that was Brain's first question to a lot of them, so what school are they in? What kind of education? And they're all older. And if a friend now had told us, she goes, you know what? With their daughter in kindergarten, they did try the classroom with just non-inclusive, I guess, separate classrooms for them. And she goes, I felt like our daughter was learning some negative things from other kids, because our kids feed off of other kids and stuff.
Absolutely.
So then they tried the mainstream and the inclusive, and she's been going, and it's great. So from that day, I was like, you know what? That's what I'm going to do. We're going to mainstream them. And not just for people in like Lebanon. I've had it here, and people were telling me like, "Are you sure that's the way to go?" Like he goes to Glengarry with my girls.
Oh.
He's in the class with all the other kids. Same thing, 1-to-1 aid, and he doesn't do the IPP. He doesn't do what they're doing, but they take what they're doing and like alter it for him.
Absolutely.
But before he went in, there was a lot of people in our community like, "Are you sure that's the right fit for him?
It is
Like,
the
are
right
you sure that's what we're gonna do?" And I
Yeah.
remember telling them, "Watch how he's gonna teach the kids. He doesn't need those kids to teach him. Watch what he'll teach the
It
kids."
is the right fit for him. You know
Yeah.
why it's the right fit for him? Because children, when they go to school,
He,
you know,
we all
those
learned
segregated
empathy from this
classrooms.
kid.
Well, first of all, the segregated classrooms, like let's say interactions. Even though there are many people that love interactions program, I am not
Some people
harping on those
need them for
classrooms.
sure.
Yeah.
Like,
just
some
for
kids need them.
my kids. Like I'll speak for my kids. I need their classroom to represent their community outside. They're not going to have 4 teachers and 10 kids, and you know the teacher is exactly giving them what they need 8 hours out of the day, but there's still another whole day out there that they are not having this, you know, specialized everything, right? So
That's a
I
great
feel
point.
like
Their
their
life
classroom,
skills, yeah.
their
Life skills.
classroom needs to represent their everyday life.
Yes.
So they need to, not only do our kids need to be fully included in everyday life and be exposed to everyday people also need to be
exactly
exposed to
And that
kids with
was my thing.
disabilities because you know these kids are going to grow into adults,
Yeah.
and when they're adults they need to know how to treat people with disabilities too.
And that's my thing. And I told him this kid, and you could tell that like the community in Glengarry, I've known it forever. My kids are older. The way it's changed since like Kareem came into that school, he's in grade 2 now, and like
He's the boss.
completely, not just that, like it's just a completely different
Spotify.
atmosphere. Kids know, like his kids around him, like his EAO tells me, she's like, he's the first one picked in gym all the time. Everybody wants him on his team.
Yes, I love that.
He gets the
Yeah.
special like thing. They get to
Yeah.
use it. Like he's. Whereas if I put him somewhere else, they shy away from. And I've seen that. Like we'd go to a park and stuff, and the kids who have never seen that shy away from him. They get scared of
They
him.
sit
They
there and
get
they
scared
stare.
of or like his walker
Yeah.
or whatever he uses. So it's changed within our community, huge in Glengarry. Like I see it a lot. There are other kids now. Like, and I actually know. I don't know this mom, but I know somebody that had told like, "Oh, I heard so many good things about Glengarry because of this kid named Kareem in there.
Oh.
I want to put my kid there."
Aww.
So like he's changed a lot just because. And I told them, "You wait. Like I'm gonna force him on you, and you guys are gonna want me to have him. Like you want to have him there." So it doesn't. We have to make everybody. I would never like, you know what I mean. He's just like everybody else, and now people want him in this classroom. They
Yeah.
want him with the kids and stuff.
100%.
You know, oh, sorry. I was just going to say, you know, kids thrive
Yeah.
in the company of other kids,
Absolutely.
regardless of if they have a disability or not. So, you know, I'm not there yet. Marcelo's only 2, but when he needs to start school, you know, I want him to be, you know, submerged in a classroom with children of, you know,
All abilities.
all abilities.
Mhm.
Right? So, and I know it's possible because he got the help he needed when he did, and we continue to be on that path. We're on that path of just his extra learnings. He has his little accommodations right now, but eventually, you know, that's the thing in the past, and he's just gonna go about his day when it comes to school and you know, making friends and all that.
He's gonna go and he's gonna thrive.
Yeah,
He's not
absolutely.
just gonna be, he's gonna thrive in
Yeah.
the classroom.
Absolutely.
And he'll be the number 1 picked in
Oh,
gym
yeah.
too.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, that's fine.
Unless he has
Super
a Spotify rap
Diane
We're a
was-
rock household.
Diane did
Yeah.
Oh,
speaking
sorry.
in kindergarten, and she had just come from a school that was mostly kids with disabilities,
Yeah.
and this was her first time in community school in a regular classroom, and I was worried because she had no words. And how was she going to make friends? And you know, it wasn't Glengarry where you knew everybody there, and it wasn't the EAA where you knew people. And her first couple of days there, I get I went in, and one of the moms was like, "Are you Bayan's mom?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she was like, "My daughter is just forcing her to be her friend." And I want to let you know, I'm so sorry. She's very bossy. But you know, she really wants to be her friend. Do you guys do play dates? And I don't think they had ever had Muslim friends before. But I was like, yeah, we do play dates. Let's do it. Like, I don't know how Bayan's going to be during a play date.
Yeah.
And I was nervous. I think the day they came over for a play date, I put out like a whole spread. And I was nervous, and I was talking to her therapist, and I was like, okay, she doesn't speak. I don't know what she's going to do. I don't know how this is going to go. And she was like, just relax. You're going to be
Aw.
fine. And these kids came over. This mom had 3 daughters, and they came over, and it was you know, it was the beginning of like such a beautiful friendship, lifelong. And another, you know, she had another child, that same thing, like, just, you are going to be my friend. And that's it. I don't care if you don't speak. I don't care if you scream in the classroom. I don't care if you do all these different things that kids with autism do when they're that young. You are going to be my friend, and I'm going to force you.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful because kids don't have these same, they're not stigmatized like adults are.
I was just, that was what I was
So
going to say.
he's going to be great.
Yeah.
He's going to be fine.
I think with every campaign that comes out with the Affiliates, we really focus on marginalized groups or groups that may have stigma attached to them, and we really try to share their stories. And I remember when I started Affiliates, and it's still the main theme, and I was talking to Alaa about this, we really wanted to focus on stigmatizing mental illnesses. And when I first started, it was like a huge deal, like, how dare you talk about this? This is not in our community. But it wasn't just our community that was, when we talk about our community, by the way, we're talking about like the Muslim Arab community, but communities weren't ready to talk about it. I worked in an affluent community, predominantly Caucasian, and it was a huge stigma. Our community was a huge stigma. But what's so cool through the 7 years, that stigma is getting better and better and better. And I can only imagine the work that you guys are doing right now, laying that foundation. Inshallah, the stigma gets a lot better within our community and communities in general. And there won't be these interactions or situations that you guys have to deal with or misunderstandings, because people will just get it. And that's my hope for with this campaign and with you guys just sharing your stories.